Hello. Hello. Are you able to listen? Am I audible?
Yes.
Hello. Good morning, everyone. I welcome all the participants to the first session of 19/1/2021. It will be on how little innovations produce big results by Keshav Rajgopa sir. So, on behalf of the department, I welcome Keshav Rajgopal sir to this session. Now I request Rajgopal sir to take over for the session. Sir.
Good morning, Professor. Good morning, everyone. Hope you are all fresh to carry on with your day too. Yesterday, we looked at a variety of ideas around what innovation is, what it means to the company, what it means to the individual, what are different kinds of innovation we can look at depending on the problems we face. Today, we will continue on the same topic. This time, we are going to look at how we can make innovation happen using little ideas all across the value chain around the product, bring them together as something that transforms the business. So this is not like Big Bang approach of disruptive innovation or extreme changes to the business model or anything. Not even minor improvements in silos. So it's in between. This is what we call as the third way. So we are going to look at some of the ideas. Is my presentation deck visible to you? Can anyone confirm? Okay. So this is the agenda for this first session. So we are going to look at several case studies on how the third way has been adapted successfully to achieve the business goal. We are going to actually look at 3 case studies, all of them from the US. The surprising fact is most of the case studies in the business domain you find from the Europe or in the US. I'm not sure why Indian academia does not spend so much time in creating so many case studies for Indian cases. So maybe some of you can talk about it when we have the time for discussion. That would be a good point to discuss because it's very important for us to look our own cases to understand what is being done right, what is being done wrong. It is good for our own development. So out of these case studies, we look at how did they adapt third way and how different was it from the traditional Big Bang approach or minor improvements approach. And we will also look at how does third way fit into the various paradigms we discussed yesterday. We looked at various ways of innovation. So where exactly does third way fit into this exacting set of parameters? Then we'll also spend significant amount in question and answers. I hope we will have certain items to discuss. The Q&A is not necessarily a time for you to tell me or tell everyone that you have a problem or you are a doubt or you have not understood. But let's use this as a time to share ideas, discuss ideas. Maybe you agree for certain things that we discussed, maybe you don't agree. So this is a time for us to participate in that kind of a discussion. So this is on the agenda for today. So let's move on. Has anyone heard of Gatorade? Okay, so Gatorade is a sports drink. Now I think it's available in India also. It's basically consumed after the match or during the match when you need a quick hydration, especially with high power sports like you're sprinting, you're going on a marathon, so you need some quick hydration with minerals and salts, not just plain water. That's when you drink this kind of hydrating drinks. So we are going to talk about Gatorade, a drink that was introduced way back in 1960. You know, it's a 60-year-old product. It came out of a University of Florida. When the scientists in the University of Florida decided something special is needed for sports events or anybody participating in sports other than water, they came up with this formula of Gatorade. Then it became an official drink or a supported drink in one of the most popular sports event in the US that is called NFL, National Football League, which is on par with our IPL. It is that kind of crazy and frenzy is available around that event. So that's when Gatorade was introduced. So we are going to look at Gatorade, what was the situation in 2008 when Gatorade faced certain problems. You know, it was a struggling brand. There was no takeoff from the glut it has faced in the last couple of years because market share has plummeted or was going down. Revenues were shrinking and it was losing market to a much cheaper alternative, right? So it dropped almost 10% in just 1 year. So despite having a big 80% of the market share. So who was the competition? Powerade. Can anyone guess who could be the owner of Powerade? It's an easy guess. Okay, so Gatorade was acquired by PepsiCo in 2001. So meaning Powerade is owned by Coca-Cola. Okay, so it's always there. Now, whenever you have a brand that's making noise, which is not part of these two brands, so somebody will pick the most popular one, and necessarily the other brand, Coke or Pepsi, will pick the other number two, and they'll own the entire market. That's been happening all across the world. Right, so this is the situation. So they were losing market for a cheaper alternative. So that was a cause for concern. So what are the options for Gatorade at this stage? Should they introduce traditionally more products, saying that Gatorade that, Gatorade this, all kinds of flavors, or should they go after more customers, try to see who else can consume this product? Maybe old people, maybe pregnant women, maybe young adults. So the options are there. Or should they look at squeeze a little bit more performance out of the core drink itself, or add more channels to sell online, or should they expand into other markets like Southeast Asia, Southeast America? So they had so many options of doing more of the same. That's what we call as the first option anyone could consider. Or it's the other one, think outside of the box. So should they look at a blue ocean option? Should they disrupt the entire business model? Should they look at lean startup where they cut everything around the product but just focus on the core product? These two options. The first option they had already tried. Since they were acquired by PepsiCo in 2001, they started offering more flavors and making sure every distribution channel is using this product. As you probably know, PepsiCo and Coke have got a phenomenal distribution channel. So that's not a problem for them at all. So despite that, they were losing market. So they were thinking they should do something else. They were at the same time not keen to go big bang. So this is the lady who took over Gatorade around 2008 when the sales started dwindling and market share was dropping. Sarah Ohagan was the general manager of Nike, another consumer products behemoth. And even now, Sarah Ohagan is recognized one of the marketing geniuses of the current generation. So you could look at her on LinkedIn. When she took over, she had this biggest problem. So she led her team in thinking they need to do something between incremental improvements and this big bang disruptive innovation. So what did they do? So they relooked at the history of the drink. Hey, we are not just another consumer brand. So we have our origins in the scientific development of the drink. We are not just plain water or a vanilla carbonated drink. So we are based on pure or real science. So we are hydrating, we are supporting our sports people, recover quickly from the loss of nutrients. So they analyze the data. So what kind of consumers are consuming Gatorade? So who are we losing? Who are we gaining? So they come up very interesting numbers. So they were losing a lot of casual drinkers. Those who are just drinking for the sake of it instead of water. Probably somebody was picking up Gatorade and they're switching back to preferred water. If you look at the time frame, it's about 2008. So this is when we had a big meltdown in US and elsewhere. That's where the big bust happened. Satyam time, if you remember. So a lot of companies were going bankrupt, economy in the downturn. People started going back to water. Let's not spend any more money on these fancy drinks. Let's go back to plain water. But they also noticed serious athletes were still sticking on to Gatorade. That's a very interesting point for them. So their core base, they looked at the core base who does not go away from the brand. So those were of two kinds. One is the teenage athletes who probably have started exercising, going to gym, going bicycling and so on, as a one set, which is about 15%. And older marathoners are the hardcore athletes who keep running irrespective of the weather, whether the economy is going or not, they continue to exercise. So these two are their core, where about 24% or one quarter of their customer base. So distribution was mass market. This is what you can expect from a consumer product mammoths like Pepsi. They use all their distribution channels more so with the mass market. So mass market meaning drinks that are sold through groceries, superstores, discount stores, and so on and so forth. So where everybody will go and pick up the buckets of the drink. So now they wanted to do something which is between competing on the price and Powerade. So that's purely a price game. Probably they would have done price game if they were just another mass market drink. Or they wanted to see if they can do anything with the core market base. They are serious athletes, such as teenagers and marathoners. Can they do something about that? Can they grow that business itself? Or drop the price and do more of the same? Interestingly, they broke out of this binary thing. Instead of doing this or that, let's do something in between, which takes the best of both options. So what did they do? They started working on several improvements across the core product. This is the key differentiator. They didn't look at how do we expand the core product, but look at how we can improve at the core product and around the core product. So they refocused. Hey, we are going to look at the casual drinkers. Let's bring the focus back on to athletes. So their needs, so we are not going to look at that athlete. They actually conducted a marketing survey and a research around these athletes. And what are those needs? Are we addressing all the needs of the athletes? So they found out from the scientific research that they are addressing only a part of the entire sporting personnel requirement. So they are providing a hydration drink, meaning during the event, anytime some athlete or a sports person feels exhausted, hydrated, so then they would use that drink. But they figured out that there is a market space within that area which is unfulfilled by anyone, right? So then they looked at, okay, let's look at the nutrition before. So where you need a quick boost of energy before you pick up a sporting activity, and then you need during, which is probably the hydration part, which they were already addressing. And then once you complete the workout, then the body needs to recover fast. Then they would need some kind of a proteins and other things which will help recover the muscle fatigue and so on. So they looked at the complete part of the sporting event and they try to address the whole area. So this is the kind of products they came up with. As you can see, so there is a pre-game fuel, the first one, you see that Prime 01, and this is what they were addressing. So the performance or the height, and they look at the post-game protein recovery. So around the core product, they figured out they had a market that nobody has tapped, but sports people need it. So they repositioned their product as not just a rehydrating drink, that's it sports fuel. So any part of the sport, you need one or a variety of what Gatorade has to offer. So after they released on a trial basis in certain segments, they found out that the younger generation quickly accepted the change, because young is always looking at something different which nobody uses it, right? Then they rationalized the variations. They had a variety of flavors. This is again picked up from the parent Pepsi. They had vanilla flavor, they had this color, that flavor. So they retired many of those flavors, which really didn't ring a bell with the sports people, because they are more worried about the nutrition part rather than in what color or what they favor or what size or shape of the bottle and so on. So they retired many of those paraphernalia. Then they looked at products which can be an additional nutrition supplements like energy bars before and after along with these drinks. So increase the price. Surprisingly, 1 liter of Gatorade around 2007 was costing about $1, right? That's about 25 rupees of current prices. And then after they made these changes, they increased the price to twice by reducing the normal bottling size to 1/3. So 330 ml of the product costed $2. So, but even then, serious sports people accepted it. Now, coming to the distribution channels, what changes they made? Then looked at beyond the regular, discount stores or mass market distribution. They looked at where sports people go, cycling shops. So they had a tie-up with all these specialized stores, offered their products in cycling shops, gyms, sporting arenas like stadiums, and then specialty stores like vitamin shops, every possible area where sports people go. So they made sure that those athletes get Gatorade products at every point of interaction. The other major change they did was rationalize the advertisement spend. So usually, products like this would advertise around TV programs when there's a NFL games or this match, that sporting event on the TV. They moved significantly away from the TV ads. In fact, they spent 30% of their ad spend from the previous year focused on social media. So they use social media effectively and a website that are directly related to sports. So that they made a significant cut in the ad, but they made it very much focused. They also invested further. They opened another R&D center at the University of Illinois to find out what else can sporting drink need, or what else the need of the nutrition in athletic performance. Has anybody to say anything? Okay. So these are the host of changes they brought in. If you look at them, they are on the core product itself in terms of improving its performance and everything around that. So now let's look at what changes did it make, right? So we look at what changes they had to make, what options they had, and what was the problem. So they grew significantly and consistently. If you look at this yellow bar, that's where they changed the management. That's where they looked at the seriousness of their issue, and they took almost 12 to 18 months to implement these changes. So that revenue started dropping down. in 2009. And if you look at this, since 2009, they have been growing steadily. When this case was made around 2015, they still continue to grow. On the other hand, look at Powerade. Their competition, they grew only during the period when they were struggling. Their growth did not come as part of Gatorade's market share, but in spite of that. So they reclaimed their market share. So they went down to around 72% during 2009, and then it grew back to around 80%. Even today, as of 2020, so they are at around 80% of the market share. Let's focus on what they did not do. Okay, so they did not swamp the market with additional nutrition products. To make up for the loss of core products, they did not come up with lots of additional products to compensate for it. But they grew the core product itself. In fact, they made it so focused, and they even increase in price did not hurt their sales. They expanded the core market base. They did not add additional set of customers, did not expand across the customer varieties. They focused on the core and expanded that core. And they did not increase ad spend, print media, social media, and then electronic media. They didn't do all of that. What they did, they diverted the spend extremely focused, and where it makes a lot of sense for them. So what did they do? So we looked at some of the implementation parts yesterday. In the previous slide, to look at. They focused on the core product and a set of innovations around the core product, complementing the core product. That's one of the key considerations of the third way. What are those set of innovations? Complementing products. So you have a core product, and then around that they had extremely specific additional products. Distribution channels, they again refocused what made sense to their core product and the core customer base. Again, focused on the ad spend. These are the three distinct ones. The rest is all minor, again, complementing to these three major changes. So look at the change. The messaging has changed from the generic hydrating fuel to sporting fuel. Let me see if I can play this. So were you guys able to see the video?
Yes, sir. We can able to see the video, but
Yep.
no audio, I think.
Audio was not there?
Not this, sir.
Okay. So let me try again, if there is a way. Is it audible or no?
No, sir. Still not audible.
Okay, so let me look at, there is one more video where I'll try to fix if we can do that. So anyway, video had the message, it was just the music in the background. There was verbal. So we'll move on. So this is about Gatorade, the sport drink, how they reframed their marketing strategy and made innovations on the core product and complementary services around the core product without going for any big bang disruptive innovation. So let's look at another interesting case study. Anybody aware of Novo Nordisk? Heard of this company name? Yeah, so it's a pharmaceutical company. In India also they make a lot of medicines. Now, if you know the Otrivine, the nasal drop, it is made by Novo Nordisk. And so many products that are made. And it's a world leader in many of the segments of the pharmaceutical products. And so this case study is about Novo Nordisk entering the US market with their human growth hormone. Okay. So human growth hormone, probably you've read it in your class 10 science class or PUC maybe, is a major hormone in the human body that is prevalent during the adolescent years, which is not produced well, you will have stunted growth. So this is produced by the pituitary gland, and it is required for proper bone formation, proper human structure formation, and then metabolism. Some of the major things what HGH does. So this is a major market for Novo Nordisk. They were already quite successful in Denmark, and they were trying to enter the US market around 97. So this is the situation. So the neutropin, that's the HGH brand name they had, was already introduced in Genentech, that's another US-based pharmaceutical major. They were already 10 years ahead in that market. So yesterday also in one of the videos, we saw why first mover advantage is not necessarily the best thing, right? So Google was not the first. They are probably third, after Yahoo and after Lycos and so on. So they had 10 years behind the market, and they had to fight with an existing company well entrenched in the market. So let's turn the company side. So let's look at the users. This human growth hormone users are typically adolescents or teenagers who are falling short of their normal expected height, weight, and body structure. So typically they inject themselves every day. So that poses certain problems. When you ask a teenager or an adolescent to inject every day, typical thing is nobody else can remind them. So probably those of guys who have teenagers at home, either children, brothers, sisters, would know. This is all across the world. They don't want to listen to anyone. So they know what they are right. So what they would do, they would miss the doses, at least a couple of doses a week. So that's almost a quarter of people missed their doses regularly. So when you don't use it regularly, the effectiveness of the drug comes down drastically. This is what the companies knew. On the other hand, the process for getting the insurance coverage for this treatment was pretty much difficult. It was time consuming, it was complicated, it involved a variety of players in the field, right from your doctor or hospital who's providing the prescription to the insurance agency, and then linked to the government authorities, and then to the pharmaceutical company. It was a very painful, complex process. So what it means is you just can't enter the market and become big overnight. So you have to address these two critical problems. Novo Nordisk had quite a good understanding of the market because they had already done similar things in their market. And they had also experience selling the insulin, that is injection-based product for the diabetics, and we understood what are the issues with daily injections. So they offer injection pen, so with a pre-filled amount of dose, and that had multiple doses. So with clear marketing, if you have an injection pen like this, probably they had a marker like what you can see here as day 1, day 2, day 3, maybe 5 days or 6 doses, or whatever is the suggested dosage, they would have it. And once you inject, it would go from that point until the next dosage only. So it was super sharp, meaning that you don't need to really struggle or have a discomfort or a pain when you inject. and it would fit a small hand, relatively small compared to normal adults, which is the core customer base of this product. And it would not allow you to inject in between. You can't stop between these two markers. So once you press here, it would take the user patient until the end. So it was sharp, meaning you had little pain compared to what was available in the market. It fitted your hand very well. It was not like a big thing that you can't hold it properly. And it did complete the dosage at one use. And you didn't need to keep this in the fridge after use. The moment you open it, so you could keep it on your table, on your desk, wherever, which is typically preferred by the target customer base. And you can use it until it is full of the dosage. So that was a significant change they brought in. They introduced a program called Nordic Care. So they addressed all the complexities around prescribing the medicine and then using it, adhering to the process of insurance. That made the life of the patient or the parent or the medical practitioners so easy. They started preferring the Novo Nordisk's product over the existing well-proven generic product. If you look at that product, they didn't change anything. They did not say, okay, let's go to improve this efficacy of this hormone by 10%, or make it a little more effective than the others, little less side effect than the others. They didn't do anything about the core product. But everything around it, the way it is administered, the way it is supported, the way it's used. Right? So what happened? So they went on to achieve nearly 1.2 billion global sales in 2015 with 32% market share. That's a phenomenal change. Why? The neutropin, the existing product, didn't move ahead of themselves. Forget about moving ahead of Novo. That's a significant improvement. That's a significant market success. This is the third case study we are going to look at. So over the last 2 decades, we clearly saw how companies use the third way. So if you look at the theme, it's very clear. Core product, they don't make any change or much change. They keep it because they know that is their key. And they made these supplementary products and the supporting products quite innovative, quite supportive, and makes the life of the customer or whoever is involved in the usage of product much easier. So we are going to look at the third case study for the day, which is going to reinforce our understanding of this third way and how complementary innovations can be very effective. So CarMax is a used car retailer. Just like in India, there are not many brands for used car sales. It's largely an organized sector. So very few brands, more so nationally. Even now in India, until we had a lot of online companies like Cars 24/7 or Cars Online. Even now we have largely unorganized. So why? Majority of the second car sales goes through the existing new car dealers. Right? So you go to a new car and then you trade in your old car and buy a new car from that company. And there are very few wholesale marketers who collect cars from individuals and then sell it separately. So this is the situation. CarMax was a car superstore. They were one of the early adopters in terms of have a branded presence throughout the country. So this is the same company that also had a large presence called Circuit City. Circuit City is like our Chroma or anything as an electronics superstore. They were struggling with the saturated domestic market. So even CarMax faced the problem of saturation because the competition is ever growing. It's easy for someone with a good set of connections with the dealers to come up with used car sales, used car company. So they opened their first superstore in '93 and they continue to succeed because they are organized market, and they were having a little bit advantage over the unorganized market in terms of their ability to attract more people, offer one-stop shop. So one of the technological innovations they had adopted was RFID tags, the radio frequency indicator tags, in every car they sold or on the display, and also along with the salespeople and registered customers. If a customer walks in, certainly you can't put a tag on him to track him. But as part of the registration, they would give them the registration card which had the RFID tag. So they did a wonderful job of collecting data on all these transactions. They use this data to understand the customer behavior. For example, if there's a registered customer, he keeps looking at various cars. They looked at how much time a customer spends at various cars. Does he spend too much time on an SUV or a coupe or a convertible or a sedan car or a color of this color? So they had lots of data, right? So which are the cars that are getting sold faster? Is it based on a brand, or is it based on the age of the car, or how new it looks, or how shiny it looks? They had lots of data. And they started to understand how customer behaves, what is the key parameter that drives sales and so on. So one of the benefits they had was use of this data to make a decision, and then huge selection of quality cars. That's contributed to their success, despite car is a commodity product. There is very little differentiator between a car sold by CarMax or car X, car Y, car Z. So there's not much of a change in terms of the core product itself. And price-wise, they also didn't have, because the car guy next door would probably sell it as a low price, or the dealer who is doing a trade-in for a new car would sell it at much cheaper because he has to sell a new car, because he gets a bigger discount. Probably he would share that discount to subsidize the trade-in car. Whereas CarMax had to go through the wholesale market, where they had to pay a little bit more purchase price of their cars compared to the new car dealers or other independent car vendors. So this is an interesting question. See, despite these problems, why didn't customers buy cars elsewhere? So why did they buy with CarMax, even though they were a little bit expensive compared to competition? If you know, I don't know how many of you recollect the insurance segment in India, let's say about 10 years ago. What comes to your mind when you think of a salesman, very persuasive one, from the Indian company? Can anybody unmute and talk about it? Yes? Pestering was one of the biggest irritants. Can you think of any brand name, any company name which comes to mind as a salesman? Absolutely, LIC. The moment somebody sees pestering, he looks, he's behaving like an LIC agent, or run away from here. People used to just literally run away if they saw an LIC insurance agent. So, transfer the same set of feelings to car salesmen in the US. Just the way we used to treat LIC agents a dozen years ago, the same feeling used to come when you look at a car salesman. People just hated talking to them because they didn't have a good experience. They didn't like the way they persuade, oversell, undermine the interests of the customer. They had to literally beg, fight for a good price. And you could never get a car easily unless you were also like around some of them. So what frustrated the customers was this kind of a stereotyped car salesman, right? So extremely stressful situation for customers to buy a used car. So what did CarMax do? They fixed the price. This car, this make, this old, this is the price. So there's no way you can haggle around the price. There's no negotiation. right? Across their chains in the entire US, you go for the same make, same brand, same year, same price. They ensure that customers are avoided of this issue of negotiating. And they made it so reasonable, customers wouldn't think that it is too much. Compared to the previous experience they had with your car salesman, wow, this is better because I don't need to spend my energy on testing for a better price. And not just the car price, even other elements of the overall deal too. So I bring in my old car, they have put a price on it. So there's again a no negotiation. I need additional warranty, same price. So I need to finance, I need to get this on EMIs, loans, same price. So everything was handled separately, but everything was very clear, no negotiation or no handling price. That took away majority of the drudgery from the second car buying experience. They sold only cars that were in good condition, and they provided a guarantee, not the warranty, a guarantee of the quality up to 12 months or whatever, depending on the car type. If you are not happy with it, bring back, we'll do a free replacement of a similar car. They had a very liberal return policy. And the sales commission they provided to their salespeople was unit based. It was not dependent on the cost of the car. Whether you buy a cheap Maruti 800 20-year-old car, they would get the same commission, or they sold the BMW 10-year-old car. So what that meant was for the end customer, they were not oversold. Now I go and want to buy a simple car around 2 lakh rupees, and the car sales people would mesmerize or even hypnotize me selling an old BMW car for 5 lakh rupees. That was the usual case. That no longer happened in CarMax because salespeople were paid the same price irrespective of the cost of the product they sold. That made the salespeople were disincentivized for selling expensive products. That was another significant benefit for the customer. The price was transparent. So what I mean by transparent pricing was, so if I look at the billing counter or a salesman computer, if I look at that, still the same price, what I'm seeing, what he's offering to me. So there are no two prices. Car salesman has a price and he would build around his commission and then sell at a different price to the customer. No, it did not happen. So customers could look at the billing screen or the salesman's screen and they paid what they were told. There was no two different prices. That brought an enormous amount of trust in the customer's minds whenever they went to CarMax for buying. So can you believe the kind of experience that they get from this kind of environment compared to what a typical second-hand sales environment would do? It's enormous. So they created a new experience. This car sales is there for 100 years, I think, right from the old T40 model of Ford. I don't know, maybe it came around 1920s and 30s. More than 100 years, it was almost the same. Same kind of salespeople, like LSE agents. Dishonest, tricky, want to run away from them, don't want to interact with car salespeople. So that industry, they changed. So transparent pricing, another significant one. So they made it so comfortable. They removed the distress part so that people could focus on what they want rather than trying to avoid what they are getting. Interestingly, CarMax hired salespeople from the backgrounds who did not sold any car. Can you imagine it? They hired salespeople for the position where they were supposed to do sales, but they didn't have any background in sales. So that brought in a new perspective of salespeople who sold car. So which was never done before because they never sold a car. So that brought a new perspective when customers interacted with salespeople. As I told you before, the kind of IT systems they had built to understand the customer and how to put that understanding into bringing these innovations was phenomenal and unmatched. None of the competition, whether it's organized or unorganized, did have that kind of understanding of their customers and the systems to support these innovations. So what it meant was, even if the local retailer, the local branch wanted to sell a product at a lower price or at higher price, they didn't have any option because prices were controlled centrally. So they had to use that price. That means the company had the control across the branches, across the regions, and what they were trying to do. So they focused on creating systems, teams, processes relatively differently and relatively proactive with a single mission. How do we make the entire process of buying stress-free and trustworthy way? This was the mission. And they succeeded with all these complementary solutions that they did. So this is a very interesting case study in terms of explaining the third way. But they didn't even touch anything about the product. Core product is the used car. They didn't change anything. But they changed everything around buying that part. Yeah, so this is the message. They did not touch the core product. Okay, so we completed 3 different case studies to explain how we are going to bring in a set of innovations around the business problem you are facing without taking a big leap in terms of disrupting the existing business situation. And you didn't make any improvements in silos across the product, but you had a coordinated set of innovations around the central theme of making the situation better for the core customer. So this was the underlying theme across. Okay. So what makes it 3 different? We are going to re-emphasize this part because this is the fundamental difference. It consists of multiple diverse innovations around the central product or a service and makes it more appealing, easy and competitive. So you look at many of the 3 case studies, they had a variety of innovations around the product, whether it's advertising, whether it's positioning or pricing or marketing operations. They created innovations and everything around this entire value chain. So innovations are there here, but they brought in together as a coordinated set in support of the vision what they were trying to address. And interestingly or importantly, all of them should work as a system. When we think of the first option, which is typically more of the same, minor improvement all across, the missing piece in that first part is coordination. How all those different elements come together as a system, come together as a tied solution for the core promise around the core product. And the third point is they must be managed centrally. You can't let go of these minor innovations in hands of different people, different teams, where you cannot coordinate. Okay, so these are the 3 distinct features of the third way. So now, so your question may be, yesterday we also saw so many varieties of innovations. How does it fit into the whole paradigm of innovation? So here's a simple slide. So looking at the variety of innovations or innovation themes we have, it does not replace anything. It has its own place. If you look at the third way, it fits between the other themes that you're already aware. The lean startup, the blue ocean strategy, disruptive innovation, design thinking. So each of these themes have a specific focus of their own. And then you look at the traditional product development where you start a disciplined approach to build the product. And then you have a full spectrum of innovation, right? So this fits exactly in between those 2. So this is the place where you innovate between a strategic choice and a set of smaller innovations leading up to addressing the situation. Okay, you can take a moment. So in terms of trying to fit your understanding of innovation in the last 1 day and how we are spending our focus on the third way. Right? So what's the takeaway from this case study is you have a third way or as an option when it comes to innovating or when it comes to addressing the business situation you are facing. It's not a replacement for design thinking, it's not a replacement for disruptive innovation, but the strategic objectives of the business problem will require you to think picking off one of these. Okay? So you have a strategic choice. So let's look at where to innovate matters. So you have an existing solution. So look at yesterday we also talked about this 2x2 matrix. So it is a 3x3. You have 3 parameters on each axis. So you have an existing solution that we use now, existing technology. You can also look at it, existing tools. You have an existing need or the market that we are already addressing. So then the traditional product development will do good because you understand the need, you understand what we have or the solution that's available. So your traditional product development would help. Let's look at the next level. You have an existing need or a market that we don't serve, but we can use the existing solution. This is where you can look at the third way. So you're going to adopt the existing solution to serve a new need. If you look at Gatorade, they had a drink, right? But they didn't have something to serve the market of sports nutrition before and after the event. So that's around the core product. They extended a little bit to add additional products before the event and after the event to extend. That's the third way perspective they used. The other option is you understand the market, but you don't serve that market. And you already have a solution or something available, but you don't use. That's again, similar third way you can use around the traditional products. Now, you have a new market need, right? And there is a new solution that you don't have. This is where the big bang approaches really work. This is where you have a blue ocean strategy because there is nobody in the market and it's for you all alone. You discover the market, you educate the customers to get into this market. This is how you tap your blue ocean. So you already have the market that you understand, right? Or you're already serving, but you don't have the tool. This is where your disruptive innovation comes in terms of trying to create a new technology to make sense of this field. The lean startup is probably using both of these tools and creating something very specific to a market, specific to a solution. So this is how you fit the existing variety of solutions that are available from the innovation platform. Okay? So this is the summary. So we looked at how different smaller innovations can be used to address the situation. So we need to get out of this binary thing, this way or that way. Smaller, disconnected, minor, standalone, independent improvements all across. For example, it's a distribution channel, you go ahead and make some changes, do more of the same. On your product, do something. Marketing, you do some innovations. Every improvement is a standalone initiative on its own. And the other hand is big bang. So it's like a new market, new technology, everything is new. You don't understand the market, you don't understand the product, you don't understand the tools you have, you don't have the technology. It's extremely simplistic. So it is dangerous. So you need to look at how do I manage these two extremes. That's the third way, because you understand majority of the things you are doing, but you're putting them together around the core product or the core solution each of the things that you look at that can provide a solution in its own way and stitch them together. So stitching together complementary innovation is the key parameter of the third way. If you look at the innovations happening on their own, that's still the first way, where you're looking at improvements made to different things in the company. But putting them together to deliver a promise, to address the business situation, to address the problem that you're trying to address, right? So that's the differentiating factor. Okay, so let's also be clear about this is not a replacement for incremental improvements or disruptive innovation, because all of them have their place in the set of tools you have to address situations. Okay? So these are the three things you need to take away from this session. So let's come to the end of the session. Yesterday also we discussed about why having an idea itself is not enough. We also talked about where Mahesh explained ideas are cheap, right? Everybody can give an idea. I have two books which I have read, which I found very useful, going beyond the ideation stage. You have an idea, fine, what do you do with it? You have to execute. So these are some of the books I've read, extremely useful on how do you execute. Thinking about an idea is one part. You are a creative guy, or your processes are creative, or you have access to creativity within your circles. You have ideas. What do you do with that? How do you execute? How do you make sure that it is implemented? It is delivering the results you expect the idea to deliver. So this gap of shifting away from idea into the execution, into the end result, that's the crux of this whole innovation problem. Okay, so this book by Larry Bossy and Ramcharan is an extremely exciting book in terms of what are the elements that contribute to execution. Okay, so it starts off having an idea to implementation, how do you implement, what are the typical issues that come up when you execute, and how we can avoid those traps. On a similar front, you have another exciting book on how do you get things done. Right. So some of the interesting takeaway from the implementation perspective is you need to build a team that can execute. Rarely individuals succeed. Right, so I still recollect from my MBA days, one of the key messages I picked up from my MBA days is that why do organizations exist? Can anyone think about it? Why do we have companies? Why do companies exist? Can anyone talk about it? You can put it in the chat box or speak up. The question is, why do organizations exist? That will tell you the importance of teams. Anyone? Okay, so Nilakant Keshav is saying innovate sustenance of products. That's part of the situation. Individuals can be innovative. If you look at individual driven organizations like lawyers and doctors, they can still be innovative. You don't need an organization for it. Yes, people. So you can be a little bit more specific. Okay, so let me rephrase the question. Why do organizations exist? So I repeat the same statement made by my professor. Because individuals fail. See, individuals failing means individuals have certain constraints. I have a dream. We talked about that having a dream yesterday. I have a dream. How do I implement a dream? If the dream is related to me and myself alone, probably I can exist on my own. But if I have a dream which is larger, if it is about a society, if it's about a country, then to implement the dream, to make the dream happen, You need more people because individuals are not enough. Individuals fail because there is a capacity or there is a limit to what individuals can do. You need larger setup. That's what we call organization. Organizations exist because individuals fail. So you need a bigger team, you need a bigger set. So that's the form, the team. So what it means is work gets done in teams. You need to keep this in mind. Organizations exist because individuals fail, and individuals fail, meaning team gets its work done in teams. Work gets done in teams. So these two paradigms is the one that help you execute, implement any idea. Yeah, so I've got a couple of points here. Team is the strength, absolutely. So teamwork. So both of you are right. So to get things done, you need teams. Individuals are not enough. Okay. So this is the end of the session. I urge you to unmute your mics. Let's start discussing. I deliberately kept some quality time for discussion because these three case studies do illustrate the power of minor innovations around the core product and how they can be stitched together and how these innovations address the basic issue, the innovation or the problem is being solved. So while you take your time to think about what do you want to ask or what do you want to discuss, I'll give you my view of asking questions, or even why do we need participation to make the session more useful. See, I studied in an engineering college close to 3 decades ago. So if you ask me what do I remember from my college days, I remember those classes where I had a fruitful discussion with the teacher, or I asked a question, or the professor asked me a question and I had to try to answer. Only those interactions is what I remember. I don't remember any session where the lecturer, teacher, or professor went on to make a wonderful session, a beautiful presentation. No, I don't remember any of that. I remember the interaction. Even I remember many of the cases, classes where I had a question, not to question the teacher, but to understand my understanding. And even teacher or the professor said, I don't know. Let's look at it. Let's see what do you think. I remember those very well. And some of those concepts we discussed way back, I remember them. I did not remember, or I don't remember what was presented very well. I don't remember that. So that's the power of discussion. That's the power of putting brain, you did your brain by asking a question, or debating, or testing certain hypotheses. So that's what makes a learning session worthwhile. Biocon is an example of disruptive innovation. So in my opinion, it's not a disruptive innovation. So what they did do, they brought in certain formulations to India. So it's like a good version or a working version of Making India concept done some 20 years ago. So we didn't have so much of investments in R&D. All we were doing is only manufacturing generic medicine. So the different thing that Biocon did was to do R&D in India, so where they could make their own medicines. But did they come up with any blockbuster drugs like a disruptive innovation? I don't think so. Okay, you can speak up. Type in. So I'm going to wait for another few minutes because this is a central theme of third way. Okay, so you may ask questions, and if you didn't understand, you may ask questions if you got confused. or you may discuss debate. So that the debating part is what I was stressing upon uh, in terms of important activity from learning. So Neelakanteshwar Swami is asking if Biocon is an example of a disruptive innovation because they brought in insulin drugs and cancer drugs, taking on Novo Nordisk head on. Okay, so what do you think? I gave you part of my observation. So what do participants think? Do you think Biocon's cancer drug or insulin drug is disruptive innovation? Okay, so let's look at the disruptive innovation part. Okay, so look at the disruptive innovation. So it is a new to the world solution in terms of a solution or a tool or a product. At the same time, it's new need to the market. So let's look at both the cancer treatment, right? So, or even insulin. So if you look at this, neither cancer drug nor the insulin injection is new to the market or new to the world. So what is new in what Bacon did was new to India in terms of manufacturing and the R&D capability, but it did not disrupt the market. So they created a market to themselves where they owned the patent relative to other companies that are in India who own the patent in their primary company, whether it's in Switzerland or Denmark or US, but they market it here. And probably the R&D centers are also elsewhere. That was new to the market. Did it disrupt the innovation? In my opinion, probably not. Significant thing, though, I think Biocon did was the R&D. So Indian companies didn't have so much say in pharmaceutical R&D. Okay, so if there are no questions, I would hand it over to the coordinator.
Thank you very much, sir. Dear participants, if you don't have any questions, we will wind up the session. Is there any questions from the audience side? Okay. Uh, okay, I will just summarize what we have done in the morning session. Shri Keshavraj Gopal sir talked on the power of local ideas. Sorry, talked on the power ideas, and he took the case studies of Gatorade, Florida, and he took the case study of Novada. Just a minute. Just a minute. I'm sorry, there was a disturbance. Okay, he took the case study of Gatorade and also the Nova Nordisk and also the Colmax and Colmax, which is a company of it's a reselling company of used cars, and he used distinguished features of third way to overcome the marketing strategies, and he summarized the third way, the binary view of innovation, and he talked about the books of execution and getting things done, and finally he concluded with where to innovate strategic choices. So these are his yeah, some of the keynotes of his talks, and I thank Sri Keshav Rajgopal sir on behalf of the Department of Mechanical Engineering and on behalf of our coordinators and on behalf of all our participants. I thank you very much, sir.
Thank you very much. So I'll see you in the afternoon session, but please
Sure, sir, sure.
participate. Now that's what makes the learning exciting. Otherwise, it's one way. I could as well make a video and broadcast it to you. So let's test each other, debate, and find out what's a good thing to be taken away from these sessions. Okay. Thank you very much. See you later. Then.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Dear participants, we will now break for a tea and we will reassemble by 11:45 a.m. for the next session. And please kindly note the feedback has been shared in the WhatsApp. Sorry, it is shared in both WhatsApp chat, our chat group, and also it is shared in the chat box. Please give the feedback form, which is also in attendance for you. So thank you. So thank you, one and all. We will meet at 11:45 a.m. sharp.